All right, you guys. So this video we're going to use to review you for the upcoming tests for Unit 7. So I'm going to go through just a series of questions. Usually these are questions that I ask 3-4 days building up to the test. And so I'm just going to go through, it's about 20 questions total. And hopefully this will give you some insight or some ideas of how you need to study. First off, I'm going to pull up this little PowerPoint. I'm going to put it online on Canvas to be able to see it. But definitely make sure you are comfortable with the muscles and the bones that I asked you to memorize. So as far as the muscles, there's 23 muscles and you got the names of them here. But just make sure you're comfortable. You know what things are as far as your rectus abdominis, your sternocleidomastoid. So just understanding that you make sure you review these. POCA muscle will help. Or once again, use this PowerPoint to say them, then you can kind of go back, and if you don't know what something is, you can look at that. Okay. All right. So muscles, your bones. Once again, you got the 22 bones. Breaking down, a lot of people have a tendency to skip and just look at number 4 and go, number 4 is the vertebrae. But understand there's 4 parts to the vertebrae, 4 sections. So I want to make sure that you are familiar with what those are and don't just skip over them thinking it's just the vertebrae. Let's see what else I want to look at here. Male and female genitalia. Make sure we're comfortable with what we're looking at. Digestive system. I think this is an image we've kind of talked about before a little bit, but just being comfortable that gallbladder is behind the liver, and number 10 is the pancreas. Okay, but same thing, everything's listed here. So just make sure you take some time, review the anatomy. If there's anything you're struggling with, once again, I'd love to help you with Google Chat or whatever we need to do. Okay, so this will be labeled anatomy review, so you could use that to help. Okay. Now let's just set up some of these questions, all right? So looking at number 1, what is the plane that lies horizontal, like this, okay, and divides the body into superior and inferior parts, all right? So we have 3 planes that I've asked you guys to memorize. And what I did over here is I actually have the PowerPoint, so we can kind of bounce back and forth a little bit. So here is these 3 planes. You got your sagittal plane, separates the right from the left. Okay. We have the frontal, and that separates from anterior posterior, so that's the front side, the back side. And the correct answer to number 1 is transverse. That separates superior from inferior. All right, drag this back out of the way here for a second. Okay. All right, number 2 is directional terminology, and hopefully you can get an idea based on these clues what part of the body I am trying to get you to say. So inferior to the head, that means below. Lateral from the belly button, so go to your belly button, and lateral is to the outside, so I'm below the head, outside of the belly button. Superior to the knee, so I'm going to go above the knee. Anterior to the buttocks. So your butt is on the posterior side. I always remember poopy posterior. Anterior is the front side. So it's anterior to the buttocks. We know we're on the front side. And then it's proximal from the thigh. Okay, now proximal means closer to the attachment point. So you go to your thigh and it's proximal. So now we have a location that is below the head. Okay, it's on the outside of the belly button, it's above the knee, it's on the front side, and it's proximal to the thigh. So hopefully you came up with the answer as pelvis. So I'd be looking at the pelvis, the front part of, maybe if you know the breakdown of your pelvis, the ilium, the iliac crest. Okay. All right, so making sure you review. I put down here what slides. I'm going to go to 99. So just make sure you review that directional terminology. Okay, I will give you something like this, little clues, getting you to indicate maybe a certain part of the body region things like that. Okay? You might see a question that says, are your toes proximal to your knee or distal from your knee? And so you'd go, okay, well, my toes compared to my knee, they are distal from the knee, which means they're further away from the attachment site. So you'll see questions like that. Okay, let's go to number 3. Okay, what cavities are within the ventral cavity? Okay, you got to remember, ventral cavity is the front. Okay, ventral cavity is huge. There's 3 cavities within the ventral. First, you have the thoracic, that's your chest, the abdominal, your belly, and then the pelvic below. So there's 3 cavities within the ventral. Now, number 4, the dorsal cavity, that's your backside. Okay, there's only 2. Okay, let's go ahead and pull this up, and it is slides 108. How we can visually see it. All right, so once again, that dorsal cavity, we've got 2. So you got your cranial, and then you got your spinal. So 2 in the dorsal cavity, 3 in the ventral cavity. Okay, thoracic, abdominal, and pelvic. All right. Okay, so there's your dorsal and ventral. Okay, number 5, what regions would you find the liver in? Okay, you got to keep in mind there's 9 regions. 4 quadrants, 9 regions. So I'm going to go and pull that slide up. Slide 121. I know we talked about this in a little review that we did on Zoom, but I know a lot of you guys weren't able to do that. So just make sure you review over, okay, what these regions are, what are these quadrants, okay? So the best way that I always like to think about this is the top regions. I like to go lateral first. So your top regions that are lateral, that's your hypochondriac. And if you think about it, I always think, oh my gosh, if my lungs are being compressed, I would have this phobia and I'd be this little chondriac and my ribs are being crushed. And so I just make that connection of chondriac, hypochondriac, hypophobia as being up by my lungs, lateral. So hypochondriac. The next one, if you've ever driven in a car, that lower back support is the lumbar support. So I got hypochondriac, I got lumbar, finally get to the very bottom, and it's the iliac, and that's the top part of your pelvis. So your outer regions, hypochondriac, lumbar, iliac. Okay. Then we get to the medial, the middle. Okay, epi means on top, so epigastric's on top, umbilical's where the belly button is, and then hypogastric means below. So epigastric, umbilical, hypogastric. All right, so where's the liver going to be? It's going to be in 2 major regions. Okay, the epigastric and the right hypochondriac. Your liver's on the right side, your stomach's on the left. Okay, moving along. What's a scientific name for the study of decomposing bodies? Okay, that is decomposition, and that's, what is that going to be? Give you guys a minute to look at it while I pull up the slide. 150. Sorry, I'm probably not giving you a lot of time to answer these without me giving them to you. There we go. Scientific name for decomposition is taphonomy. Okay, 5 stages, taphonomy. Okay, so what would high volumes of carbon dioxide within a dead body tell you? So this one's a little bit interesting. They're performing an autopsy, and when they are looking at the gases found within the body, the amounts of gases found within the lungs and the blood, and they're finding high volumes of carbon dioxide. So what does that tell you? First off, if there's high volumes of carbon dioxide, that means the oxygen's really low. So what's happening if the oxygen's really low? They are probably being suffocated. So oxygen's low, but the body keeps making ATP, so it keeps making that waste product of carbon dioxide, and it keeps getting higher and higher, and they can't exhale because they're being suffocated, and so those numbers and those levels are going to have this type of division. So that's what I'd expect, is that somebody was suffocated by a pillow or whatever. Okay, number 8, what affects the timing of decomposition the most? So that means what's going to speed it up the most, what's going to slow it down the most, what is the factor that contributes to affecting decomposition? And the number 1 is temperature, outside temperature, hot, cold. Okay. All right. Let's look at number 10. Okay. What would a toxicology report tell you regarding an autopsy? So your toxicology reports, that's any type of poisons, chemicals, toxins that were found within the body, either naturally or unnaturally. They were given to them orally. This is where you'd be looking for things like your antifreeze, maybe your arsenic poisoning, or maybe it's toxins that formed in your body naturally. So that's what toxicology report would tell you. Alcohol levels, drugs, any chemicals found within the body. Okay, number 11, who must you get permission from if the law does not require an autopsy? That means it wasn't, it could have fallen under on the manner of report. As far as a death certificate, there's 5 different types of manner that they could put on there. So you got undecided, that'd be the hard one. Natural, accidental, what am I forgetting? Natural, accidental, undecided, suicide, homicide. Yeah. Okay. So if they put on there that they believe this was a natural death, but you wanted to have an autopsy done anyways, you have to get permission from the next of kin, which means the closest living relative has to give permission. A boyfriend or a girlfriend cannot give permission for an autopsy to occur if the law doesn't require it. It has to be a family member. All right. Let's go ahead and go now. I don't know what we're at time-wise. So here's another set of series of questions. I'm going to check the time really quick so I know what we've got. I think we're okay. Okay, so here's just another series of questions I'd like to go through is, what is rigor mortis? And that's the stiffening of your muscles. Happens immediately after death. Remember the range, 2 to 6, smaller muscles, up to 12, complete rigor. 12 to 36, things start to soften up, smaller muscles first. 36 to 48, you should have complete softening of the body. Okay, so we kind of answered that already, number 2, number 3. Let's go to number 4. Okay, number 4, what is algor mortis? That's your body's temperature dropping 1 degree Fahrenheit per hour. How much will it cool? 1 degree per hour. Okay, what is liver mortis? Okay, remember liver mortis is the pooling of the blood. It's livity, right? So when does it become permanent? The magic number is 12. 12 for rigor mortis, 12 for liver mortis. All right, I like number 8 because 8 and 9 are the types of questions that are my favorite. Let's look at number 8. What clues can you gather from this crime scene? So if we're looking at this individual, I don't see that there's bloating going on. I don't see a lot of greenish brown coloration. It's hard to tell as far as the mortises. We don't know the body temperature, algor mortis, but we definitely can see liver mortis, livity. So we know this body's been dead anywhere between 2 to 12 hours because livity is occurring, but because it seems to be like it's on the chest, right, that ventral cavity, and it appears as though it looks like it's been a permanent set, so we're probably looking at least 12 hours. Okay, I don't see insects crawling all over him. There's not maggots all over. So once again, that also suggests that this individual is still in the fresh stage. Maybe the way this body, this arm is, it looks as though maybe there's still some rigor mortis going on. And so if there's rigor mortis with the arm, then that suggests we're still in that 12 to 24 hours. So everything here looks like you're suggesting it's in the fresh stage. There's livity, so we're in that 12 to 24 hours. Some rigor mortis going on. Let's look at number 9. There are signs of a small larvae on the body. Okay. The temperature of the body was 84.3